Hey guys, welcome to camp in Chiang Mai, Thailand. I'm here with Shawn, who I've met a few weeks ago when I first came to Chiang Mai. He's here visiting the area, but he's been here a few different times. So getting to know him over the past couple weeks, I thought it'd be great to bring you a little information about what he does, how he does it, and ultimately how he's servicing his clients and his background in e-commerce and what he's done. Shawn, can you give a little introduction to yourself? I gave you a little bit, but
yeah, sure.
Give us a little more information about you, where you're from, why you came here, so on and so forth.
Yeah, sure. So a little bit of information about me. Basically, I grew up in Los Angeles. I really like traveling, so I decided to come to Thailand for a few weeks just to visit. I came here last year. I really enjoyed Chiang Mai, so wanted to come back and just spend some time here again. Basically, I have an e-commerce advertising business that's based in Los Angeles. And what we do essentially is we manage pay-per-click accounts, we manage e-commerce websites and build e-commerce websites. And everything's based in Los Angeles, California. All of our clients are there. And yeah, that's basically.
How long has the business been around? How long have you been doing it? What kind of clients do you work with? How much do you spend on average with these clients on a month-to-month basis when it comes to ads?
Sure. So the business has been around. I started about 4 years ago. I actually have roughly about 7 years of experience doing this stuff. But 4 years ago, I actually started the LLC, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
And right now, the average monthly spend that we manage on the advertising side is anywhere between clients with $1,000 of monthly spend all the way up to $100,000 of monthly spend. And we usually try to work with mostly e-commerce clients because they're just really fun, and I personally enjoy e-commerce. But we also have some service-based clients that we provide leads for. And as far as the platforms we use to advertise, we use anywhere between Google AdWords, so like Facebook, Bing, LinkedIn, pretty much all of the main platforms we manage those types of advertising for.
Nice. So with over $100,000 in spend a month from these different clients, over the past 4 or 5 years, how much have you spent in total over on Google and advertisement in general through your agency and yourself?
So if I have to give like a rough calculation, I would say somewhere over $2 million of advertising spend has been managed over the past few years.
Wow, that's crazy. And when you are managing all these different advertisements across these different platforms, it must be quite difficult, well, at least for me, for the average person to understand which advertisements are performing the best, how to track all the performance, what's going on. I'm assuming that's something you've tailored over the past 4 or 5 years to get like consistent reporting.
So yeah, I love that question. So basically one fundamental part about our business, and what we always tell clients right up front, is that we're hardcore into tracking things and metrics. So whenever we take over an account, we take over a client's account, the first thing we do is we spend a lot of time working on setting up tracking. So anywhere between, for example, conversion tracking, e-commerce tracking, Google Analytics, to phone call tracking even through different services. So that way we're getting a lot of feedback that way. And everything goes into different dashboards that we have that we get to see these metrics.
Yeah.
And every, basically on a continuous basis, we're monitoring all this information. And every month we provide reporting for the client. We compare the different metrics based on the different platforms we're using. Obviously, we give the client recommendations on which platforms to focus on more. If we need to maybe cut out a platform entirely and just focus everything on one platform. So it's really a science. Definitely with advertising, a lot of it is art, but also now with online advertising, a lot of it is science. So we try to bring the scientific part in and track everything, as much as possible.
That's awesome. So this seems like a great business for you. Gives you a little ability to travel and enjoy. All right, what got you into this type of work? So what sparked you from, instead of going down the traditional corporate path or supply chain or marketing or so on, you went specifically into advertisements, digital advertisements, pay-per-click, and so on. What kind of sparked that transition into going down this route?
So how much time do you have?
Give me the short version.
Yeah, so basically just a quick little background about how I got into this. in the past, I studied engineering. I started mechanical engineering, and then I worked as an engineer for about a year. I found that I didn't really like working in an office setting like that, and I wanted to do something where it allows me a little bit more flexibility, even like something where I could start my own business easier. While I was working at a consulting company, I had started going to business school, MBA school, and then I started taking some marketing courses. And I just started falling in love with it. I really like psychology. I always liked sales, like just because I used to work at my parents' store when I was a kid doing sales.
Oh, nice.
So it kind of just like triggered in my brain that that's what I really have a lot of passion for. And so I look back into what I've done before, and when I was growing up, I always helped my parents' business, and they have an e-commerce business. And I was like, hey, why not try to go into this route? Because I know I've been successful at it even without any formal education. Why not try to actually focus and get my MBA in marketing, start a business in this, start actually applying what I learned in school to the clients I got.
Nice.
And that's how it all kind of got going.
So the big turning point to like see that you were going to be successful in this career and path was your family's business, their e-commerce business.
Yeah.
That was like the first step.
Yeah, that was a really nice start, because essentially the biggest advantage I had in that is that because it was a family business, it gave me a lot of trust, and that allowed me to play with things and just basically have complete control over what happens, and that allowed me to get really good feedback on what's working, what doesn't work, and get experience in all sorts of different things in e-commerce. Compared if I was working for someone where they'll be like, you barely have an experience, how can we trust you? So I kind of leveraged that family connection and got the experience I needed, and then it actually turned out pretty well, and their business started growing, gaining more revenue.
Now, how many times did you fail before that though? Because a lot of times. We listen to podcasts and we hear people talk about the success and that last long tail end of how they got to where they finally are,
right.
But they miss the underlying iceberg, right? That of failure and change and trying to figure out. When you were first starting with your family's business, I'm assuming mainly Google Ads, was there a lot of hiccups along the way to get to a place where it made sense? So and you knew it was going to work?
Yeah, there's definitely there's failures on all sorts of different levels. There was like the everyday failures. So something that I did a lot was actually I messed around with their website as well, try to optimize their website, make updates to their website. The everyday failures were like when the website crashed, and I didn't even tell the web developer that we were touching the website. And so I would have like a meltdown thinking like, all this like advertising spend is going into this, all these people are on the website, and there's no more website. So there's those everyday failures. And then definitely in like the long term, there's definitely campaigns that I thought that would work well, and we allocated budget to that didn't work well at all, and I got questioned on my thinking and why I came up with that, but and also there's just different things I had to learn about, and some things just didn't pan out, like different platforms I learned about, different web tools I learned about, and I would say over half of them it was maybe a waste of time. If anything, it taught me how to learn better, but I'd never used those platforms, so probably potentially hundreds of hours just gone.
Completely.
So those are failures in my case. So failures are not so epic all the time, where it's in your face. It could happen over time. You just dedicate so much time to something that you really don't need. There's those type of failures, but it's all a learning lesson. And I think that even now, I fail constantly. I fail with even existing clients. I mean, it might scare my current clients to hear me say that, but that's the only way we're allowed to learn. Like, there's no way I would be able to try out new platforms, and not fail. There's no way. Not every decision we're going to make is going to be correct. So I feel like just being comfortable with that failure is super important.
Exactly. I mean, when I was in the marketing side at Unilever and we had a bunch of campaigns that we ran that did very little for the business. Like some were very, very, very successful, but others were maybe had a little success or no success at all, or had backlash. So there's a constant learning process. I completely agree. Is there anything you put in place right now with the approach to buying your advertisements that minimize that risk? For example, I hear a lot of media buyers will put 10 or 20% of their budget in a variety of campaigns up front. Right. And when one takes off, they adjust the spend.
And dedicate more to that.
Is there anything that you have in place right now
yes.
that helps your business?
Yes.
If you can go into a little bit of detail.
Definitely. So this kind of works through a lot of different advertising, but specifically with Google AdWords. There's this strategy, and I didn't come up with the strategy. This has been around in like the PPC, pay-per-click world for a while. It's called alpha beta strategy. Basically what it does is that you have two types of campaigns you're creating. So let's say you have a product, let's say shoes. We always use shoes in like pay-per-click world. So if you have a certain type of like Nike shoes you're selling, you could set up two different campaigns, a beta and an alpha. The beta is essentially set up to test out things that are working, maybe new keywords that you could be targeting, new ads, or any sort of different like subcategories in the product line that you want to test. Anything that works in there, you put into the alpha. So once you start getting results, you put into the alpha campaigns, and you start targeting the alpha campaigns with more budget and just dedicate more time to them. Basically, kind of use like the 80-20 rule.
Yeah.
So we started applying that to like all of our clients now, and I feel like very comfortable with that type of strategy because we know where like the major return on investment is coming from, and also we know that we're dedicating some of the budget to testing and figuring out if something works, if something doesn't in our beta. I think with a lot of advertising, if we think about it long term, one of the problems is that people get so hyper focused on what's working, they totally give up on testing new things and seeing if something else sticks, and then after like a little bit of time, obviously things change, and then you miss out on this entire new opportunity. But when you have this alpha beta strategy, I find it always gives me a peace of mind that we're testing new things.
Exactly, and with the alpha beta strategy, I'm assuming over time the campaigns that are working eventually may fall off.
Yeah, so they could jump. I mean, something that's in the alpha could within weeks end up no longer being the alpha. So we'll look at the long-term metrics, and then if we see that it's not doing so well, it gets grounded, gets put into the beta, and if it fails over there, then it's out of there. So we have like that type of strategy that works pretty well.
Awesome. So that structure that you have in place, you use across all your clients, and that kind of minimizes the risk. Even though, like every business, there's certain things that don't work, you can emphasize the working assets as much as possible.
Right. So when it comes to the actual operation part, this is like one way to handle it. Obviously, there's risks throughout, like with every business, but when it comes to like operating and advertising, this is one way to reduce it and be able to kind of focus your budget on the stuff that works, and then allow space for experimentation. Nice.
So now let's go into your agency a little bit. So your structure agency. Obviously, you're leading it, and you have multiple clients, so it can't just be you.
Right.
Can you give us a little details of like the roles that you have in the company, and how they execute and work with you to work with your clients? Is there just a little structure on the tree of the team?
Yeah. So basically, the way that I've set up things is that I am the account manager, you would say. I'm the person facing the client all the time, and also I'm like the account strategist. So I come up with the strategy when we're building out the account. When we're managing it, I come with the general direction the account is going to go, and I oversee everything in the operations. Sometimes, of course, being in this position, it doesn't mean that I always get to overwatch. A lot of times actually, I have to put out fires and personally take care of things, because if my team can't figure it out, there's no other person but me that has to figure it out. So, but essentially the rest of the team, what they do is they handle the day-to-day tasks, the specific checklist that they have to go through, and the actual management part they take care of. And then we also have another like business partner we work with that is more on the graphic side and like the creative side, and they help us basically create all the different creatives and work on the designs. And that's kind of like a business partner we work with. We join teams with.
Now, pulling these guys together, so you have all these different aspects of the business. Can you give the guys watching a couple tools that you use and recommend? If they're whether it be an agency, whether it be an e-commerce shop, or any business they're starting, what are some of the key, maybe 5 or 6 things that you use on a regular basis?
So I would say for those out there just starting out, or maybe you've been going for a while, you want a more efficient way to manage projects, I think Asana has been a lifesaver. I've been using it for probably like 4 or 5 years now. And I just can't go wrong with it. I feel if your mind just works like a checklist, if you like that type of that interface, it's perfect. And I think it's still free for up to like 15 members. 15 members.
Yep, 100%.
Also Slack, I think that's just I'm pretty sure that's like the standard now.
Yeah, I use it as well. Slack and Asana are my 2 favorite. Yeah.
Right. So using Slack is good. And recently we tried to integrate Boomerang into Gmail. Essentially what it allows us to do is when we send out an email, a lot of times when we're dealing with maybe subcontractors or clients, they won't reply back immediately, or something happens and maybe it's like it just goes in the back burner for them, and it just like you could set a little timer on it. In 2 days it'll remind you to like shoot them an email if they haven't replied. So that's been I just noticed that there's a lot less on my list of people I need to like follow up with because of this app that we recently started using.
Nice. Any other ones?
Off the top of my head, not really. Those are the main ones that I like. We're experimenting with other things, but those are like as far as increasing efficiency, productivity, I'd say those are pretty essential.
Now, for those who are starting out with their Shopify store, with their business, they're trying to advertise and grow their products, and they're looking at Google and or Facebook advertisement and trying to learn, right? They're trying to get into it. They're trying to understand how to advertise online, how to build personas, how to ultimately build the business around the brand that they're producing. Is there any trainings or thoughts that you have for them starting out, like Google courses or Facebook things, that advertisements or programs that they should go into, or anything you would suggest to them to get started with? I know you started with probably like diving right into your family store and just seeing what works and didn't work. Is there anything you would do right now to start that process?
Sure. I think just do it is like the mentality I like to use with these things. I've read books on Google AdWords after I started managing a Google AdWords account for like 2-3 months, and I was surprised at how just little information the book has. And the experience you get when you're managing an account, it's just at another level, because you run into problems, you have to look up the problem. When you go look up the problem, you learn so much new information, and then you'll discover the different resources out there too. So maybe like you think that reading some book is really good for you, but actually when you're actually managing an account, you do a Google search and you find this really amazing blog or this like YouTube channel or something. So I would just let things play their course in the actual like day-to-day of managing an account. And if you think that I don't have an account to manage, I just think there's probably a lot of nonprofits out there that could use your help. I would just provide them free service and just learn that way. That's awesome. If you don't have your own budget to work with, I would say just go call or like walk up to any nonprofit around your area. Especially if you're part of a church or something, or any other nonprofit organization, I would just approach them and offer your free services.
Perfect. Now, after $2 million in spend over 4 or 5 years, if any of these guys are starting an e-commerce store and they have their first product, let's say it's a premium product, right, over $50, and they're looking to leverage Google and Facebook or retargeting, is there any strategies that you have or tips that you could provide to them when it comes to ultimately starting out their campaigns, testing them, and then trying to get some traction?
Sure. So I guess let's start with Google, because that's like the big one we focus on. So we'll talk about that, and then maybe Facebook or something else.
Okay, cool.
But the general method that you want to use when you're starting with a small budget, because if you're starting out, obviously, unless you're like backed by some venture capitalist, you're not going to have a big budget. So what you want to do is you want to target as much as possible. So even if that means that you feel like your product is good for several different demographics, or whatever it may be, I would still try to focus it on one at first. Even if you're disappointing a lot of people, but if you could just focus on a few people, you're good. I think there was a book by Seth Godin. Seth Godin called The Purple Cow. I think that's a good book to read to get this mentality down. But essentially, like this is the big picture view of it, is to try to focus as much as possible, shoot with an arrow instead of fishing with a giant net. And then in the day-to-day, how that would work, for example, if you're setting up like a Google AdWords account, instead of going for all these like broad keywords because you think it's relevant, I would just go for hyper-targeted keywords. Keywords that, if you're talking about shoes, like for example, if you say like you're selling Nike shoes, and then I would say focus on like the red Nike shoes with a certain style.
Okay.
At first, just have that one product, create one landing page for that product, and then create keywords that are targeted for just that product. Your ads are going to have that same keyword. They're going to have benefits, targeting, talking about that specific product. So when you get that targeted, you're basically cutting through a lot of the competition, because the bigger competition doesn't have the time to focus that much, that narrow. They usually have so much budget that they can just
cast a net across everything.
Like carpet bomb it basically with advertising. But when you're small, you could get that narrow. You have the time. You don't have money, but you have time, and you could spend your time and get hyper targeted with your advertising. So I would say that's how I would.
With a Google AdSense perspective.
With a Google AdWords perspective, yeah.
Now, are you focusing, when you buy on Google, are you focusing on like search top bottom? Are you looking at Google merchant ads, so actually bringing the product in the Google sales picture that comes up?
Right,
are you
like
looking
Google
at
Shopping.
Google Shopping? Are you looking at YouTube ads?
Right.
Are you looking at the whole universe, or are you mainly focused just on search?
So if we're talking about e-commerce,
Yeah.
I would say that the most return usually it starts with search. From search, I would go to shopping, and then from shopping, I would go to remarketing, and then at the end, if you have any money left, which you probably won't, it's going to be display, because display is really good for like branding. And I'm not talking about remarketing display. I'm talking about you're just targeting some certain demographics with display ads. That's really good for branding. But usually when you're small, you're not going to have any budget for display. Search is where you want to start, hyper-targeted search, if I could say it that way. And then shopping is where I would go next. And just general note about shopping, you have to have really good tracking in order to understand how your shopping campaigns are working. We find a lot of times shopping provides a lot more assisted conversion than like direct conversion.
Yeah.
If you're not sure what that is, maybe look it up. That might be a technical term. And then obviously remarketing, you get a really good return on investment, because those are people that have already been to your website, and then you're just reminding them that, hey, come back, make that purchase.
So when you said banners, are you okay with remarketing banners across the internet? So they come to your site and then they see a banner later on lifehacker.com, for example. You're okay with that?
Yeah,
you're talking about banners,
I'm talking about
throwing out banners that for people that have never been to your site, you put that last.
So essentially the way the display network works, if you want to really make it simple, there's like the display side where you're targeting based on interest, based on demographics, but these are people that have never been to your site. You're just targeting based on that information. And then there's display remarketing, which is basically you're showing display banners to people that have already come to your site. Yeah. And the nice thing about that is that you could segment the list, the remarketing list, based on all sorts of criteria. For example, depending on what type of product categories they have viewed, how long they've been on your site, if they added something to the cart and they haven't checked out, if they have something in their wish list. So you could get really granular with it and create all sorts of different lists and all sorts of different banners based on their behavior on your site. And usually that has really good return on investment. And it's nice to know that people coming on your site doesn't mean when they leave, they're gone forever. You could still go after them. So.
Now, when you do your retargeting, there's many services available. Obviously, there's Facebook's Pixel that allows you to retarget. Right. There's Google itself that allows you to retarget, and companies like AdRoll that allow you to retarget. Right. When you are executing your campaigns, do you try to keep it in the Google environment, or do you use any of these other services?
Sure. So I would say that we usually try to focus on AdWords and Facebook. Okay. Those are the main ones because they're the heavy hitters, and we feel like with the time we spend doing the creatives and working with the platforms, we're gonna get the most return for that. If you already put your budget in that and you still have more budget, then I would start looking at your other options like AdRoll or what have you. But we typically like to stick with AdWords and Facebook just because those are that covers most of the areas.
Awesome. Now let's walk a little more detail into this because I I'm personally getting a lot of knowledge from this. So when you put these campaigns out, let's say we have that shoe e-commerce store again, and someone look for Nike, Jordan, white, fill in the blank, long tail search keyword,
right.
and they land on your advertisement. When they click in, you said build a landing page directly for that specific shoe. So they go from the ad to that shoe on your Shopify store or your BigCommerce store, whatever you use.
Right.
On that page, what would you have? Would you capture email? Would you be taking the same exact script that you had in the campaign, so when they land, it's very transparent that it's the same exact thing? How would you set up the landing page so you get the highest conversions from that ad?
Okay. How much time you got?
High level.
Okay, high level. So first of all, when I say create a new landing page, always test. Don't. When I'm saying create one page that has just the one product, and what I'm trying to say is that try to focus on creating a page for that advertising.
Yeah.
But sometimes a product page works really well. Sometimes we find a category page, and sometimes even the home page works really well. So you have to test across.
Yeah.
But some of the most important things are like consistency. So definitely keeping same kind of similar taglines, similar benefits that you already have in the ads that they clicked on. So when they get to the page, they don't feel lost.
Yeah.
Definitely, as far as AdWords is concerned, you want to have the right keywords in the page as well, because that essentially what it does is it raises your quality score, which basically means you're paying less cost per click.
Okay.
So you want to make sure, like, if you have like red Jordan Nike shoes in your keyword that you're targeting, that keyword, same keyword is on your landing page.
Awesome.
So that's like on the AdWords side, that's what matters. But as far as like landing page optimization, yeah, definitely having social proof, like reviews through Shopper Approved, Trustpilot, or like Google reviews, something like that.
Yeah.
Having like the Norton antivirus thing to
McAfee
to show that it's secured. Obviously, the layout has to be professional. Have very small little chunks of writing instead of just like paragraphs, because no one reads through that. People, I think average attention span is like 7 seconds.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
within like that range. It's very, very short nowadays. So having good graphics, maybe a banner at the top.
Yeah.
Making sure that they see the benefits, like really quickly. They understand how you're different from the competition. Your points of differentiation. All that stuff that we all know in the marketing side.
Now, would you also try to grab, if you're bringing them to that page, would you also try to grab their email out point, even if they don't buy, or would you rather have them focus directly on the product?
Right. So number one, you hopefully you have remarketing, so you have a second chance at them, and then doing like the opt-in or the exit intent email pop-up. That's one strategy that usually works. And then maybe doing like a layover once they get
with
in.
like a coupon or something?
Yeah, with some way to get them to move forward with it. But I would be careful what you use. I would check with like the different policies based on the ad platform you're using. I know Google, for example, if you have something extremely distracting pop up, you could disapprove your website.
Yeah.
So I would look into like the policies. So I talk with like Google if you're working with them, or whichever platform it is, to make sure you're not violating the policies.
Now, so we may or may not capture email with exit intent and other approaches. Mm-hmm. Let's say they leave the page. Mm-hmm. How is your retargeting set up usually, or what kind of retargeting do you do? Do you mainly target people that have added to the cart? Do you know anyone that's reached the page? If you were taking your first step in retargeting, what segment would you approach the most when it comes to that journey?
Sure. So a few different ways. Number one thing, you have to test. I would create different audiences. You could set up different campaigns with each audience in it. The type of audiences that we usually do is product category audiences. So if they've been into certain product categories, so if they've been on like the Jordan Nike shoe section, that you want to target those people with the Jordan Nike shoes. If they've been on the site for a certain amount of time, that we usually find is pretty telling in how well it's going to perform. So whether they've been on the site for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, or if they've been really deep into the site, so they've been through like 10 pages of the site.
Yeah.
That's another one. And then if you want to break it down even more, it's like if they added something to cart, what you could even do is have all those audiences and just bid higher based on their actions. So you could say the people that have bid on the Nike shoe section and they've added something to the cart, you're gonna like 100% modify the bid by 100%. So you're essentially bidding double for those people because you know they almost purchased.
Nice.
So those are some of the different examples. It's good to start from there, and then you can get, use your creativity and come up with all sorts of different ways to target audiences.
That's awesome. Now, moving away from the business a little bit, I think you went over everything in detail very well. I'm very excited about the funnel you just took us through. Why did you come to Chiang Mai? So why come from LA and come and visit Chiang Mai for a little while and
Sure.
see? And you've been coming back here a few times, right? So
yeah, this is my second time actually back here. So I think number one thing that I've never found anywhere in the world is the community. Chiang Mai seems like the number one place for people who work online, and I found that any question I have or anything I want to do for my business, I could get that resource here. I met you. I met so many different people here that I've been consulting with and talking about and understanding, their perspective, what they've done, and there's just unlimited amount of resources for me.
Yeah.
And definitely, it's just a beautiful, relaxed environment. I feel like when you come here, you just get a nice peace of mind. And let's not forget, it's dirt cheap.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Shawn, thank you so much for jumping on this with me. I look forward to seeing you in LA and here when you're visiting, hopefully in other countries as well. And how can these guys reach you if they want to work with you or if they have any questions? What's the best way to reach you?
Yeah, so I think Shawn, SHAWN, at Bonza Marketing, BONZA marketing.com. That's my email. If you have any questions or something, you can shoot me an email. And then if you look up in Twitter, you could just search Shawn at Bonza Marketing and you'll find me on Twitter. I forgot my Twitter handle. So.
Yeah, nice. Guys, if you like this interview, I hope you really enjoyed it. Reach out to Shawn. He can help you out with your business, or if you have any questions, and leave some comments and like this video so we can make sure we respond to any questions that you have. I'll be putting these interviews out over the next couple months, and make sure you leverage this as much as possible to get any information you need. Shawn, thank you so much, my friend, and I'll talk to you soon. Recording. Hello. Test. Are you recording? Recording. Let's find this.